Hello and welcome back to another Blueprint Blether. This time we are coming to you from inside Scottish Gas Murrayfield, inside the old television studio, which I don't believe you two have ever been in here before, have you actually, to be fair?
First for me in nearly 10 years of being here.
Yeah, first for me as well, just another room that we managed to find in our nomadic media schedules where we seem to locate a different room in Murrayfield.
Changing up though, that's the main thing. Changing location, change the game. But I'm Calum Johnston and I'm joined today by James Wade and Scott Riddell as we're going to go through the age grade law variations, obviously with the new youth mini season coming up. Just to give you a wee bit of a refresher on what these law variations are, but I guess for anyone that doesn't know, Wade, can you explain to me what is the age grade law variations or AGLV?
So we're going to talk about AGLVs, which is obviously kind of like short for age grade law variations, and these are essentially different laws for the game as kids kind of grow and progress through rugby. So they start from like P1 and work up to under 15 to basically build the game up in line with I suppose physical maturity, experience of the game. So that by the time they get to under 16, they've had a chance to kind of have a go at all the elements, then put them together in the full 15-a-side game under 16. So the basic premise is to layer on the essential skills early on. So we talk about run, pass, tackle, and then eventually a bit of breakdown, then set piece, then a bit more full pitch tactical stuff. So that is essentially a kind of progression from not rugby to 15-a-side. We also have a principle called Game On, where, because each environment's different, we have loads of clubs and schools across Scotland, so a Game On is a menu of, at a certain age, you can pick and choose certain things depending on, for example, how many players you've got. So it's, I think that's probably a summary of what it is.
What age does it start from?
So we have micro rugby, which is under, pause it. Under 6.
Less than that. Under 8.
Under 8, under 6, so it's under 6, yeah. Other question, yeah.
That's a good overview. So what age does that start from, obviously, because we've got the different levels as well of our mini and youth game?
Yeah, sure. So it starts at under 6 P1. So from under 6 to under 8, that's P1 to P3. It's a non-contact version of rugby. So these are kind of touch games like hoik ball, TIG, hand catch kind of games. So where basic players just enjoy ball familiarity. And then from under 9 P4 through to under 15, it's the age grade variations for contact rugby as well. We have slightly different ones for boys and girls. So up until under 12 P7, it's a mixed version of the game. However, we do also have another pathway for girls rugby. So under 12 through to under 18, there are law variations for the girls game. Girls on the whole tend to start the sport later in Scotland, so we wanted to design a law pathway that reflected the experience whilst also acknowledging that their physical development's actually quicker in terms of peak height velocity and things like that. So yeah, it's basically for mini and youth, but that's how it roughly splits up, and obviously we've got documents which we can put out alongside this as well.
Yeah, all the documents will be available online. We'll look at the minis then first and just their age grade variations, just some of the things that are coming up for this season, Scotty. We're looking obviously this season quite a lot about tackle heights. Obviously, a lot of big change in the community game with the new tackle height law trials coming in for this season. How does this affect the mini AGLVs?
Yeah, in a word, not massively. 2 words. Where we always have had a low tackle focus within mini rugby in Scotland, and I think as players either start the sport or the early transitions into the more older variations of the game, we're hoping for that to be quite seamless in terms of being a wee bit creative in how we train the tackle, introduce it, train it, develop it, enthuse players on that contact side of the game. So we would chat through a coaching perspective a lot about contact confidence and contact competence. So we're going to have a big focus on the young players in from micro rugby into P4 when contact starts, that they are physically capable of performing effective low tackles. So it's really important that we're conscious when we are preparing these players for sessions, that we focus on activate, which would be a holistic approach to preparing the players for sessions where they're
pushing, pulling, lunging, squatting, bracing and rotating, but we're also engaging them in that as well. So I feel like I've given quite a lot of information there, and blethered on a wee bit, but that's, I suppose, what this is all part of.
Exactly.
So, like, James, what would you add to those statements just there?
Yeah, I think it's previously we had waist and below from under 9 up into under 14 in both the boys and girls game, and that's something we wanted to maintain. So whilst the rest of the community game, so from under 15 up the way, has gone to below the base of the sternum, we felt it's just good. I mean, because it's been in place so long and we've seen some really good practice from coaches in clubs and schools, that we wanted to maintain that. We have made a slight tweak, haven't we? So we had an amber zone previously, which was if a tackle was kind of like around the chest height, as long as it didn't impede the ball being played, it was kind of like a play on. I think we just wanted to tidy that part up in line with the rest of the laws. So from under 14 down the way, you can't target the ball in the tackle. So we wanted to get rid of the amber zone. So any tackle in that area would be given as a penalty or free kick, depending on the age grade. So there's probably really good common language we can start to adopt. So we talk about tackle below the ball. I think that's a good trigger and a good kind of cue for players to kind of look for. Belly tackle is obviously really simple language to use. Then we've also got the eye to thigh, cheek to cheek, which has been well established as well. So yeah, getting rid of that amber zone is going to be in for the season, and all tackles must be waist and below, and think about below the ball.
Yeah, I just think to add into that for people who are coaching the tackle initially, I've got a few mates who are just starting out in P4, and there's quite a bit of sort of apprehension in terms of like, oh, it's contact now. So one of the things we are like recommending with some clubs who are entering that P4 stage of the game would be that actually if we feel our players aren't fully ready for a tackle, then we can allow that pre-Christmas period to still be non-contact if clubs choose to do so. Yeah. So I think it's so important that we keep players in our game, keep players loving our sport for longer periods of time, and we want to have as few barriers to that participation as we can. And if all the kids, they're all different. If one maybe is enjoying the sport less because of the contact side of things, or they are not feeling prepared for it, then we need to have that flexibility in order to be adaptable to change our environment that can ensure that they stay in the game. I'm really passionate about that in terms of some kids who are less confident, some kids who are maybe not used to playing a chaotic contact sport, which it can be at primary 4. It's quite a big jump. So if we need to have a little bit of regression in terms of moving back to some of the previous AGLVs, then certainly we can train that, and we can speak to other coaches in terms of festivals that we can manage that side of things.
I think it's important as well, isn't it? So you think about how we train rugby across Scotland right up to adults. We play a lot of touch games, for example, and these can be used kind of like to train the tackle as well. So we are talking about maybe using tags a bit more. So there's a good interim period for that first part of P4 that still using tag festivals is really, really effective in terms of it gets players looking low. It's probably something quite tangible to show success of that low tackle in inverted commas. So it's almost like an additional thing to just get better at tackling. We also have modified games such as touch tackle, which we can put out for clubs to use. And this is essentially where it's a tag out touch game, but once a touch is made, then it's a static tackle. So it just takes a bit of the pace out of the tackle, allows players to kind of get in position, make a good tackle. Then once the tackle's complete, the ball is just popped off the ground and the game resumes. So these modified games also form part of the AGLVs as well. So yeah, we just kind of like, we will be putting some bits and pieces out about it as well, but for coaches just to explore that element as well.
Yeah, I just think from a staged approach as well, we also build up from, we're recommending 4 a side in micro rugby, P1 to P3, and then 5 a side in primary 4, on a 22 by 28 metre pitch off the top of my head. If that's correct, then I'm
very specific and
pretty proud
very
of
correct
myself
as well.
right now. Have spent a wee bit of time recently developing the documents. So I think you're really conscious that actually it sounds like quite a small pitch, but we actually want to make it a little bit harder, a little bit more challenging for the attack. So by essence, making it a little bit easier for the defence with a low tackle focus around the waist. Obviously, we want to encourage offloads. So by the nature of that, there's quite a lot of transition. And transition defence is something that, you know, throughout the game is something we need to be really adaptable to, in developing smart defenders in order to realign and connect pretty quickly. These transferable skills can be implemented, you know, really quite quickly into our game and can be developed, you know, really implicitly through playing, and managing, you know, the pitch size and the team numbers is a way that we can do that.
Another law which probably governs under 9, under 10, P45, is the tackle hold law. So the tackle hold is essentially to kind of recognise that sometimes a player might do most elements of the tackle correctly, i.e. identify the ball carrier, intercept the movement, get themselves into a low position, make contact, but they might just not have the physical strength to bring the ball carrier to ground. So the tackle hold occurs when a tackler either completely stops or significantly slows down a ball carrier. And if the ball carrier isn't looking to pass, then it's almost like a 1, 2, shout tackle hold, and then from there, tackle's complete. So it's almost a bit like, you might see it in sports like rugby league, but we've had it in the last few years, and we think it's a really good tool for developing confidence and recognising that step from non-contact to contact, that's actually a really positive thing that you've done by intercepting quite a dynamic movement and getting yourself in a good body position and actually just making good rap. And the bringing the floor part is, again, something we will build on and focus on when we layer in other parts of the game as well.
Yeah, I think certainly from a coaching and mini ref point of view, understanding and knowing our players is really important. So, you know, through mini rugby, plethora of different ages and stages more than ages. So knowing which players maybe need a wee bit of support and help with their defence, and then being creative with how we do that, but also through the laws. If we see a player has maybe missed a few tackles for one reason or another, because it's hard, that maybe that tackle hold call is maybe made a wee bit sooner for some players, maybe a little bit later for some of the others, that we actually allow a little bit more of a contest and contact as well. So I think that's the empathy side of things for our players and the game is really important at mini rugby, and especially as the players are forming those skills that can lead to effective tackles.
I mean, everyone develops at their own pace as well, and it's just about making the game a bit more fun for everyone to be a part of. Noticed definitely over the last season or so that you have been doing a lot more research into this as well. You've been to some of the festivals as well. So can you tell us a little bit about what you've seen and then how that's helped in making these changes to the law variations? So obviously I know the scoring system as well. You've done a bit around points and everything like that.
Yeah, so we have probably a couple of things. So early mini rugby, so under 9 under 10, is predominantly a running game. And we noticed that because the pitch was quite big, but also players get excited when they get their hands on the ball, and it's a go-forward sport. The first principle of rugby is go forward, and we see that principle coached really well, and players doing that exceptionally well as well. And I think we acknowledge that that's just the stage of where children are. Sometimes the concept of giving up my turn on the ball for the betterment of a team, it's quite advanced cooperative play, isn't it? So, yeah, so don't be afraid if there's not massive amounts of passing, I suppose, at P45, so under 9 under 10. So to recognise that, I think that's why we kind of look to the pitch size to kind of give more confidence to the tacklers, because we know that's such a key thing at this transition from micro rugby into kind of contact rugby. So that's one thing we noticed. We also noticed that there's loads of tries, loads and loads of tries, which is a brilliant thing. So we just wanted to kind of just put in an alternative scoring system that just gets coaches and players thinking a bit more about, maybe I could pass. So, Scott, do you want to explain what we put in? Because this is Scott's idea, and it's been, when we've trialled it, it's been really well received.
Yeah, I think so. In a nutshell, it's 3-2-1, 3-2-1 scoring system. The first try, a player would score, we worth 3, the second worth 2, and from then on, 1 point. So if we actually think about this, the balance of tries being scored through a team has the potential to maybe be revolved around stronger individuals within that team, just through how they're developing, or maybe their experience. There's a host of other reasons that a child might be more successful in a game than others. So we'd like to try and sort of spread this enjoyment of scoring tries to other players on the team, where if a player maybe has scored a couple of tries already, they're maybe then rewarded, or their team is rewarded for making passes, and having that spread of scores across the team would lead to more points. So there's a host of other things that would contribute to this as well, in terms of things that sit within our blueprint, that selfless nature, the creativity of how we manage the scores across the team, whether the coaches encourage
optimistic as well, making the players definitely a lot more belief in themselves to
definitely, and then
play.
And then even tenacity and self-organising. How can we trust those players to come up with ways that everyone scores a try that day, or that game, that festival? It could be a training element as well. And even as I'm rattling them off, I should probably mention tenacity, for the support players to be working hard and understanding that they need to support the ball carrier. So our initial sort of trials of this have been really positive, where some players have actually surprised their coaches quite a lot in terms of coming up with ways to involve more players in their team, and they're finding that quite rewarding. And actually seeing the engagement of some players who maybe haven't scored as much within games, they're actually coming away from festival matches like buzzing that they've scored points and they've contributed to the betterment of the team.
Mm-hmm. And it's, I suppose in real terms, what does it look like? So let's say you got a team of 5 at under 9. If every player scores 1 try, that's actually worth 15 points. Conversely, if one player scores 5 tries, it's worth 8. So you can already see, hopefully, that players will, and we noticed players starting to notice that, didn't we? Like, oh, this person hasn't scored yet, let's try to get them the ball. And so everything I said about it being a running game, this is one thing we've put in place to just nudge that next principle of play, which is support and continuity and all those elements as well, because we're seeing really good go forward. And again, the laws are all about developing other principles of the game and other skills. So as you move up to bigger pitches and more players, better defences, you have the tools to kind of deal with what's in front of you. So we big shout out to Curry for hosting that. That was really positive on all the teams that were there. That was a fun day out, wasn't it, going through this?
Yeah, some really good buy-in. After a wee bit of apprehension in terms of the logistics of it to start with, but I think when the coaches sort of started to notice actually the benefits of it, it was really, really positive. Yeah.
So that's scoring systems. We've made a couple of other recommended tweaks as well, which we would like to see coaches put in place. So the first one is around the restart after a try. So as I mentioned, it's all about building skills. So previously it was a tap and pass to the team that conceded. We've tweaked that now, so the team that scored will kick to the team that's just conceded a try. Now, what we want to do, this can be any kick. It doesn't have to be a drop kick. We just want to get players used to kicking a ball. So that's that principle there. And the other one we've brought in at under 9 and under 10, which is P4 and P5, is if the team maintains possession for 6 tackles, on the 7th, if they're tackled again, it then turns over to the opposition. Mm-hmm. So because there's no breakdown, because you can't target the ball and tackle, we wanted to give defences a reward for making good tackles. Mm-hmm. So we've put that 6th phase. So after the 6th tackle, if there's another tackle, the team get the ball back, essentially. So we've watched loads of mini rugby. It doesn't happen too often, but because we made the pitch a bit smaller, we're probably going to see hopefully some more confidence in tacklers and defenders. And this is going to be, again, another reward, I suppose, isn't it? To kind of for coaches to really get excited about, players to get excited about as well. And then other than that, the only kind of slight tweaks were made around the scrum at under 11, under 12. So the scrum was introduced at under 11 as the first kind of set piece that players experience. So it was 3v3, but we've put a key kind of couple of words in, which is a resisted lean. So what we see at the moment is players very upright, they kind of hold on and just tuck the head. What we want coaches to do is kind of encourage players to get their feet back, for props to bind onto the opposition. So you're almost got this kind of like apex kind of shape. And again, it's just to get players used to a bit of pressure that comes on the scrum.
Yep.
And it's actually quite hard to hook the ball when you stood bolt upright, isn't it? So it's just something just, again, allow players to experience something that they are going to experience it under 12, under 13, under 14, under 15.
Yeah, perfect. Well, we'll come on to the youth AGLVs in the next Blether, which should be out very soon. But I think we have covered everything off, mostly with the mini AGLVs. Hopefully, we see some good mini rugby this year. That's the main thing of it all.
Yep.
And all the documents will be made available on the website as well. So, correct. James, Scotty, thank you very much for joining me, and we shall see you on the next Blether.
Cheers, Calum.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Cheers.